Should I speak in Italian also? Potrebbe. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. Noi siamo pure infiniti, da oltre il tempo veniamo e all'eterno ritorneremo. Noi siamo pure infiniti, da oltre il tempo veniamo e all'eterno ritorneremo. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. Questo passaggio nel tempo facciamo sia un evento gioioso, colmo di luce, pace e amore. Questo passaggio nel tempo facciamo sia un evento gioioso, colmo di luce, pace e amore. La finita mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. Condividiamo con tutti il meglio di noi stessi, così saremo da tutti amati. Condividiamo con tutti il meglio di noi stessi, così saremo da tutti amati. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. Svegliamoci dal nostro torpore, prendiamo in mano la nostra vita, facciamone un evento grandioso. Svegliamoci dal nostro torpore, prendiamo in mano la nostra vita, facciamone un evento grandioso. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. La gentilezza e la bontà siano sempre la nostra realtà, che a tutti offriamo in libertà. La gentilezza e la bontà siano sempre la nostra realtà, che a tutti offriamo in libertà. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. Il coraggio e la fiducia spianeranno la nostra strada, dandoci rifugio e protezione. Il coraggio e la fiducia spianeranno la nostra strada, dandoci rifugio e protezione. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. Diventeremo suoi strumenti, distributori dei suoi alimenti, che sfameranno i veri amanti. Diventeremo suoi strumenti, distributori dei suoi alimenti, che sfameranno i veri amanti. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. Percorriamo il cammino interiore, lasciamoci alle spalle il mondo esteriore, raggiungiamo la vetta della realizzazione. Percorriamo il cammino interiore, lasciamoci alle spalle il mondo esteriore, raggiungiamo la vetta della realizzazione. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. Prostriamoci ai piedi del Guru, che ci ha indicato la via interiore per attuare la trasformazione. Prostriamoci ai piedi del Guru, che ci ha indicato la via interiore per attuare la trasformazione. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. La vita è infinita, mai avuto inizio e mai avrà fine. Life is infinite. It never began and it never will never end. We are also infinite. From beyond time we have come, and to the eternal we will return. This passage in time, let's make it a joyful event, full of light, peace, and love. Let's share with everyone the best of ourselves, so that we will be loved by all. Let's wake up from our slumber. Let's take our life in our hands, make it a great event. Kindness and goodness will are always our reality that we offer to everyone freely. Courage and confidence, they will pave our way, giving us shelter and protection. We will become his instruments, distributors of his foods that will feed through others. Let's walk the inner journey by leaving behind the external world. Let's reach the pinnacle of realization. Let's bow down to the Guru's feet, who showed us the way to implement the transformation. So this is a hymn which I wrote some years ago, and it says, as we heard, life is infinite, never had a beginning, never will have an end. Now we are all convinced that this life is at the beginning. I mean, life as a manifestation, creation. And all the religions have stories about the beginning of life, creation. The thing is, was there ever a beginning? Or it always existed? Now, what happens in creation? It's a continuous creation and destruction. But this creation and destruction, it has always been going on. It never had a beginning and never will have an end. You know, centuries ago, the Catholic Church believed that the earth was flat, there was the center of the universe, and that the sun wheeled, turned around the earth and all the other planets. Nowadays, we know very well that this is an absurd belief, because the earth is not flat, it's a sphere, and it's part of the solar system. Together with the other planets, they compose the solar system and they keep whirling around the sun. But at the time, those who began putting out the idea that it was different, that it was not the sun turning around the earth, but vice versa, they really got into troubles. They were burned alive. In Italy, there was one Giordano Bruno. I don't know if you ever heard his name. He was the beginning. He became a monk just because he wanted to study, not because he wanted to be a monk. He never really believed in the Christian doctrine and theology. But for him, this was the only way to become, to have time to study. So he entered the church, the Ordine Domenicano, Dominican order, one of the several orders of the church, because there they really studied. They are those who spend much of their time in studying the scriptures, theology, and so forth. So the more he studied, the more he went far from the Christian belief that the earth was at the center of the universe, that the sun turned around the earth, and so on and so forth. By and by, through his inner intuitions and revelations, he understood that it was totally different, that the earth turns around the sun together with the other planets, and then the sun system, the solar system, it turns around other larger systems in the galaxy. He understood all these things. And also the galaxy turn around other bigger galaxies. And that the universe never had a beginning and never will have an end. This happened in 14th century or 15th century. So he wrote many books about this. He traveled extensively. Eventually, he was excommunicated from the church because of books which he wrote, in which he expressed his inventions. So he went away from Italy. He went to France. He taught at the university in Paris. He met with the king in Paris because they came to know that he was a very smart man, very intelligent. Then he went to England and he taught in London, Cambridge University. Then in Germany, in Poland, in several other places. Wherever he went, he was very appreciated and taken into consideration. Whatever he believed, he was very much taken into consideration. But then eventually he went back to Italy because he was invited by somebody to teach him. He developed a very, very, very peculiar method of, let's say, expanding the consciousness through memory. So there was somebody in Italy who was kind of a ruler who wanted to learn this skill from him. So he invited him to come back to Italy, telling that he would protect him. But he was not able to learn the process because he was not capable of. So then eventually he denounced him at the church. He was arrested, kept in prison before in Venice, where he was arrested for some years. Then he was transferred to Rome. And they had the process, this calling, how you call it, the court of the church, to ask him to refuse all his beliefs. Then they wouldn't kill him. And at first he accepted that, yes, these my beliefs are my fantasies. They're not true. What the church teaches, that is true. But then by and by, the more he stayed in jail, the more he convinced himself that, no, I'm not going to fall into this. So eventually he said, no. What I say is the right thing. What you say is so wrong. And time will show it. So eventually he was taken to a square Rome, Piazza Campo dei Fiori, and he was burned alive. This was a bit before Galileo came up. Galileo came up a little bit later. And, Galileo at some point, he also wrote books about, because he invented this Google, by which you could watch the stars, and he saw that what Giordano Bruno was telling was really true. So he also wrote a book about these facts. And he also was taken to court, but he gave up his beliefs and he saved his life. So anyway, what I mean to say is that this is really the reality. In this endless cycle of life, there are continuous creations and destructions. There are continuous universes coming into existence and universes dying. There are continuous solar systems coming to an end and new solar systems created. There are continuous galaxies disappearing and new ones being created. But all this process never had a beginning and never will have an end. So when you read in the scriptures that God made the light and then the light manifested the earth and so on and so forth, so many stories of this kind in all the traditions, they're not true. That's all. They're just stories to tell something about how life came into play. Try to explain something which is inexplainable. But that's not the way things are. Because life never had a beginning and never will have an end. You see, when I was young, on this planet, there were around 4 billion people. Now there are almost double. From where did they come, all these people? There are 4 billions more on this planet. From where do they come? Did you ever think about this? They come from other planets. They were not from this earth. And people keep believing that this earth is the only planet on which life exists. How can it be? This huge universe with so many galaxies, with millions of solar systems in any galaxy, and trillions of galaxies. Is it possible that only on this planet there is life? It's again an arrogant belief, like so many arrogant beliefs these inhabitants of this planet have. Actually, the universe is full of life. It is beaming with life in all sorts of forms, in all possible dimensions. So we, in this big, apparently big planet, floating into this space, this endless space, which, when seen from another planet of the solar system, it seems like a tiny, tiny something. And seen from another galaxies, it seems just nothing. Or is it? Or are we? We are nothing. And funny enough, at the same time, we are everything. Because in each particle of the universe, God is manifested potentially. And each living being, in whichever dimension finds himself or herself, has this divine spark in him, in her, by which can realize the full potential, which is divinity. So it's very good to think in big terms and not in tiny, suffocating terms. Because if you think in limited terms, then there is conflict everywhere. The only way of not getting into conflicts is to see life in a much bigger scale. Rather than looking at the earth, which is a mess, look at the sky. It's so much more beautiful. Because if you look at the earth condition, especially at this historic time, it's really scary. And never like now, we can realize how much humanity is mad. Because this is a time in which so many things are coming up, so many repressed violences and thirst for power and dominion over the others is coming up. But up to now, it was possible to dominate others. Now it's not possible anymore. And I must say, this is very much this our West that wants to dominate the world, as it has always done. Now it's enough. Other people are waking up also. They also have tools, and they don't want to be dominated by anybody. So it's a difficult time because it's an historical time of transformation. So we better look up what they deserve, because then we can just worry about. So the song says, we are also infinite. From beyond space we come, and to the eternal we will return. We are made of the same substance as that of God. We come from beyond time, and that's where we have to go back. And until we do this, we will never find really peace, real peace. So we have to walk our way, try our best to implement this, because this is what brings real joy and fulfillment in life. The closer we are to our center, the more fulfilled we feel, the more happy and complete we feel. The farther we are from this, the more desperate we are. Then we need so many things, addictions, pleasures of all sorts and kinds, something to fill up this void, which can never be filled by anything. So we become slaves of all these addictions, and our life becomes miserable. So we have to take our life in our hands and do something good with it. We have to have a dignity which is to live a certain lifestyle. So this passage in time, let it be a joyous event, full of peace, love, and joy. We are despaired about everything. We worry about everything. We are anxious about everything. I think there was never a society as safe, as well organized as this one. In the past, it has always been much worse. And yet, we are so anxious about everything. We so much worry about everything. And there are more people nowadays going for psychic help of some kind than ever. More depressed and desperate people nowadays than ever. More addicted people to anything than ever. Why is this? Because anything external, anything material, will never give us fulfillment, will never make us happy, will never fill this inner void that can be only filled with the presence of God. So if you want to be fulfilled as human beings, if you want to be happy, we have to be on a spiritual path. We have to do a spiritual practice and try to tune in with God as much as we can. And do it as a sincere practice, with a sincere heart. Just not just as a matter of passing time. It has to be a ruling passion. Master Kirpal always talked about develop a ruling passion for God, because that's the only way we will be taken into consideration. We say the path doesn't work with me, I'm not able to meditate, because we are not really enough sincere, because we don't do what we are meant to do in order to succeed on the path. If you take a path, there are certain practices which we have to do. And if you want that it works, we have to do these practices, otherwise it doesn't work. And it's not because the path doesn't work, it's because it's we that do not work. We don't do what we are meant to do. Sant Gervais said, those who say that the path doesn't work is because they don't do anything on the path. They don't use it. So how can it work? You have a tool, you want to do something with this tool, but you don't use the tool. You go with your hands. Or you don't even try to do it. How can it work? You see, a musician who wants to become good at playing an instrument, and those who are musicians here, they know it, you really have to busy yourself. Those who become great musicians, they play their instrument 6, 7, 8 hours per day. So those who want to become good meditators, they have to meditate 6, 7, 8 hours per day. Just the same. We are an instrument. We have to play it if we want to get out some good notes, some good melodies. And as I said, singing on this path, it's a very important practice. It has been important at the time of Master Kirpal, but was not so much practiced. It was practiced mainly by the Indians and not by everybody. There were some very good singers who would sing, and the others just accompanied them, made the chorus. At the time of Sanji, it became very important practice because he really minded about singing. He was a good singer himself. Later on, he gave up singing in public, but in the beginning he was, and I heard him many times singing bhajans. And as I said, he wrote so many bhajans, you can see in the book. Most of the songs which are in the book are his songs. So he really taught us how to sing the bhajans, because he understood this is a very important practice. You know, at the time of Master Kirpal, people sometimes asked him how to make the satsang more effective, how to charge up the atmosphere when we have satsang. And he said, if you want to charge up the atmosphere, learn how to sing the bhajans. That's the way to create an atmosphere, to enhance the atmosphere, charge it up. But very few did it, really, very, very few. I was attending a satsang in Milan at the time when I was initiated by Master Kirpal. That's where I was living. It was quite a satsang with 30, 40 people. But we didn't sing any bhajans. Nobody ever sang anything. We just sat and meditated, read something from the Master teachings. That's all we did. But then with Sanji, we began singing these bhajans. And it became so much better, really. Such a nicer atmosphere. And such a very effective way to create an atmosphere. So it became much better. And in my case, I am really passionate with singing. It's really my way. Much more than as it was at the time of Sanji. When we had retreats with Sanji, we get up early in the morning, like 3 o'clock in his ashram. We'll sing a bell. So we woke up and, there was groups of 40, 50, 60 people. And so we drag ourselves into the meditation room. And after 10, 15 minutes, most of them were sleeping. If you go nowadays to Sant Bani Ashram in Rajasthan, the ashram which was Sanji's ashram, they keep having retreats there. And they get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and not everybody, let's say 1/3 of the people will attend. Get up and go into the meditation room. I've been there twice after Sanji died, attending these their retreats. So after 15 minutes, they're all sleeping because they don't begin with this bhajan singing. So really, after 15 minutes, they're all sleeping. After half an hour, the room is empty. They've all gone back to sleep. So Master Kirpal and Sanji always said, when you begin your meditation, always start by singing a couple of songs that really charges out the atmosphere, wakes you up, and then you have a better meditation. But nobody did it, even during Sanji's time. So I thought, if they say so, why shouldn't we do it? That's why I changed the system here. And we always begin with 3, 4 songs. And then we go into meditation. And it's so much easier, so much better, so much more effective. So one has to find ways to make the path work, to make the practice work. And at some point, the way you're doing it doesn't work, invent something. Be inventive. Find a way that it works. Because it's an alive something. And like all the alive things, they tend to exterminate. It's in the nature of things. We create something, it has a life for a certain period, it is kept alive for a certain period, then goes into stagnation, deterioration, and death. It's about everything. That's the main Hindu belief, Creation, Brahma, maintenance, Vishnu, destruction, Shiva. Everything undergoes this process. So also the practice. So anything we do, it undergoes this process. You begin doing something, the beginning is effective. After sometimes, less effective. After some time again, not effective at all. So we have to invent something else. And I can tell you the way it works for me, but maybe it won't work with you. So you have to invent it yourself. You have to find it out yourself. The way it works with you, because you're all different. I may give you tips and hints. You may try, but you have to be inventive. And you are inventive if you do something. A scientist finds out things, invents things, if he's really busy in his research. Otherwise, no. The same is with the path. And it's a precious something. It's something that really works if you use it, if you get busy with it. You can have a wonderful life being on the path. Be inspired, be intuitive, be bright, be joyful, blissful, and ecstatic. This is what the path can give us. But we have to use it. We have to get involved with it. Otherwise, we do like some people say, oh, I took initiation in Sant Mat. They gave me 5 names, that's all. No, Sant Mat is not this. Sant Mat gives the light, not just the names to repeat. Gives a contact with the inner light and with the inner sound. But then we have to keep this alive and find the ways and means to keep it alive. Then, if you do this, we become his instruments, distributors of his foods, of his blessings that will feed the needs of the hungry souls. But to be used as his instruments, we have to become his instruments. Otherwise, how can he use us? And all the masters want his people to become masters. Once I was with Sanji in Bombay in a program, and somebody asked him, Sanji, how are you preparing somebody? Because people are so much interested what will be, who will be after the master, who will be successor. Maybe the master will live more than they live. Means they will die before the master dies. But they are interested in who will be successor. It's a disease, this. It's everywhere. It's really funny, but it's like this, I tell you. So this person asked, are you preparing somebody to succeed you? And Sanji said, I am preparing all of you. I'm working with all of you. So that's what the master would like. So his people become capable of becoming distributors of grace. So we have to become his instruments by, putting into practice what we are taught. That's the only way. Have you ever heard about St. Francis of Assisi? As a holy man of Italy. He is quite famous in the Catholic Church. He's a figure which may be second to Jesus. So at some point, he had a spiritual awakening. He had some revelations, rebuilt my church, he was told. So he left his comfortable life. He was the son of a rich merchant. He was very vain, very worldly. But this experience really changes orientation in life. So he left his family, he left his town, Assisi, and went to live in a small chapel called San Damiano outside of Assisi. And this chapel was in very bad condition. So since the message that came to him was rebuild my church, he understood maybe I have to rebuild this church. So he began working on this church and to rebuild it. He gathered some stones, he went and begged for concrete and this stuff, whatever was needed to rebuild this church. So he began rebuilding it. And eventually, by and by, succeeded. Before becoming this eremit kind of person, he was, in a group of young people in Assisi, and he was really at the center of the attention. Because he was quite well-to-do, he had money, so he organized these parties, and so his friends loved him because of this. And once he gave up this life and went to live as an eremit, by and by his friends, they went to him and asked, "But what happened to you? Why did you change so much your life?" And he really took it serious. He was one of the very few Christians ever in history, I tell you, because I don't know any Christian. I must be clear. Because what does Christ teach? If you want to follow me, go, give out to the poor of your belongings and follow me. Do not take with you for tomorrow, not even 2 loaves of bread, just what you need for today, that's enough. And 1 cloth is enough, and barefoot you go. Those are the teachings. So I don't know any Christian, really. And if somebody sleeps on your right cheek, you offer the left one also. Christians who have ruled the whole world, colonialized the whole world. These are the Christians. And killed everybody. Europeans went to America and killed all the people that were living there. And this keeps happening. So, these are the Christians. I don't know any Christian. Just my name. But he was a real Christian, this St. Francis. So he really took the teachings 100%. So they asked him, what happened to you? He said, this is the message that I've been getting. This is what God wants from me, and this is what I'm doing. So because they thought he had gone mad, So once they talked with him, they understood, no, he's not mad. They saw in his eyes something special. So one joined him. He said, I help you. I stay with you and I help you. Then a second one, then a third one. And they became, because he really wanted to imitate Jesus in all possible ways. So he got 12 or 13 of them joining him, the main ones doing this work. So in the beginning, they prayed and prayed and prayed. They did lots of works of, helping the poor, the needy, and the sick. And then at some point, he said, okay, now all of you go all over Italy and preach. So he sent somebody north, somebody here, somebody there, because they had been accepted by the Pope as an order, so they could go preach in any church, anywhere. So they began going like this, preaching in several places. And to one of them, he said, you go preach in Assisi. He was called Frate Rufino. He said, me in Assisi, because that's the town from where he came. So he was very ashamed of going in the church on Sunday and, asking the priest if he could preach. He said, no, this I will never do. So St. Francis said, because in his order, one of the main topics, it was obedience. So you obey. He said, you go, and you go naked. So he went naked. Just fully naked. And they threw stones at him. But he did it. So I mean, these are serious things, my God. This is not a play. If you want to follow a spiritual path, you really have to get involved with it. Then the path works. Wonderful things happen and we get transformed, really. Sanji told me many times, those who follow the path, they will never say that the path doesn't work. It doesn't work only with those who don't follow the path. So, this is what I've been living in my life. This is what I've been doing. Anything that my master asked me to do, I have done it. I never said yes or no, or could be different, or why. When I came to live here, this place, if you saw that this place as it was when I came to live here, you wouldn't believe it was the same place. It is the same place. I was coming from Milan, living in a comfortable apartment. He told me to come and live here. I didn't have intention to come. I bought this place, but I didn't have intention to come and live here until it would be restored, made it nice, brought electricity, maybe telephone, water, and everything. But he told me, no, you go and live there right now as is. I had a job in Milan. I was making good money. I came here, I didn't have any job. But he told me to come, and I came. I did so much work. He wanted to come next year for a tour. He was going in 1980 for a tour. He was meant to go to North America and South America. He told me, you organize a program there. Rebuild this place and organize a program. I worked for 1 year, all alone here. It was such a cold winter at the time because really the climate has changed. Now it's so meek, the weather. But at the time it was so incredibly cold with snow and everything. And there was no heating of any kind. And all alone I worked for 12 hours every day to rebuild this place. And so that in May, when he came, he would be ready for this program. And that was just the beginning. So that's a spiritual life. If you like it, that's how it is. If you don't like it, well, do what you can. What can I say? But they don't expect much. If you don't give much, don't expect much. You will get much if you give much. I'm sorry. Sorry to disturb your mind so much with my stories. But that's what I am. And that's what has been my life. And that's what I can talk about. If I were a different person, I would say different things. So thank you for listening. And I hope it inspires you. And I don't want you to feel bad. I want you to feel good. But I want you to know how things are, how things work, and how things do not work. You see, Norman, he's on the path for how much? 70 years now. And he still finds so much pleasure in the path. Let's take his example. He has been initiated long before I was initiated. Path is joy. It's a fulfillment.